Hi, and welcome to Yarnspirations. I'm Mary Beth Temple from Hooked for Life Publishing, and I'm here on behalf of my good friends at Red Heart to introduce you to Popcorn the Bunny, one of our Red Heart Amigurumi crochet kits. Now, everything you need to make a new friend is in the kit. We're going to have a full pattern. You're going to have the skein of yarn for your main color, all the stuffing you could ever need, the black contrast color to embroider Popcorn's face, a locking stitch marker, a yarn needle, and of course your handy dandy crochet hook. So the only thing you're going to need is scissors. So let's jump right in and get started on Popcorn. Let's begin with the head and body. Now that's going to be one big piece, which is great because it cuts down on our sewing later. And we're going to work from the top to the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a magic ring. I'm going to leave the cut end of my yarn, maybe 4 to 6 inches, hanging in the breeze in front of my left hand. I'm going to bring the yarn over my index finger, under my middle finger, and then over my index finger again. Now what I have going on here is an X. So I'm going to take my crochet hook, insert it under that X. I'm going to grab the top left-hand side of the X and pull it through, and now I have a loop on my hook. Now I'm going to get all my fingers out of the way. I'm ready to start, and I'm going to work right into the ring. So the first thing it says is chain 1. So I'm going to chain 1. Now it says 6 single crochet in ring, do not join. So much like I'm working a single crochet at any other time, only instead of working into an existing stitch, I'm just working inside of that ring. So I'm inserting my hook in the ring, yarn over and draw up a loop. I have 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and draw through 2. That's 2 single crochets. 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are my 6 single crochets in the ring. It says do not join and tug the tail to tighten. So the tail, as we discussed, is this piece of yarn that's cut. It's kind of floating in the breeze here. So I'm going to give that a tug. So I'm using my right hand to hold on to my stitches, but I'm not holding too tight. I want to be able to pull that strand through, and you can see it's going right through. And if I keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, there's my first round, and I have my 6 single crochets in a round. Now it's reminded me not to join, and it says mark last stitch. So I'm going to grab my stitch marker that was in my kit, and I'm going to put it in the last stitch of the round. Pattern also reminds me, as we make our rounds, because we have lots of rounds to make, I'm going to move that stitch marker up with every round so I know where my round ends. Moving on to round 2, it says increase in each stitch around, and to increase I'm going to put 2 single crochets into 1 single crochet. So here's my first single crochet of the round. You want to make sure you don't split the yarn. I'm going to yarn over, draw it through. There's 1, and now I'm going to put my second one in that same stitch. It's a little easier to see the second time. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So I'm going to go to the next one, insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over and finish my single crochet, and then I'm going to put my second one in the same stitch. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and I started out with 6 single crochet in the round, and now I'm going to end up with 12 because I put 2 in each one. So now we have 12 single crochets in the round. Moving on to round 3, we're going to single crochet in 1 stitch, increase in the next one. And remember, for the increase, we're just going to put 2 in the same stitch. And we're going to repeat that all the way around, or for a total of 6 times. So 1 in the next one, 2 in the next one, and at the end of this round we're going to have 18 stitches. Now rounds 4, 5, and 6 are very similar. For round 4, you're going to single crochet in each of the next 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and then increase in the next one, and you'll do that 6 times. For round 5, you'll single crochet in each of the next 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 in the next one. And then for round 6, you're going to single crochet in each of the next 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 in the next one. And what will happen is you'll have a nice round flat circle, and each round that you create is going to have 6 single crochet more than the one before. So at the end of round 6, you're going to have 36 single crochet. Here we are at the end of round 6, and we have our circle going. This is the top of the bunny's head. Now it doesn't say this in the instructions, but I'm going to take this opportunity to weave this end in while my piece is nice and flat and I can reach into there, just to make my life easier later. Now for rows 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, all we're going to do is single crochet in each single crochet around, with no increasing and no decreasing. And what's going to happen as we do that is the head is going to start to curve in this direction. It's going to curve down, and that's going to give us the side of our bunny's head. Here we are at the end of round 11, and once again with no increases or decreases, our little piece cupped, and this is the top of Popcorn the bunny's head. Moving on to round 12. Single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, single crochet decrease. So in the same way that we had stitches, plain stitches and then an increase before, we're going plain stitches and a decrease this time. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now to make our decrease. Well, we're going to insert our hook in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, then insert our hook in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to yarn over and draw through all 3 loops on my hook. So I have taken 2 stitches and turned it into 1. Let's look at that one more time. So for this particular round, I'm going to make 4 regular single crochets, and then I'm going to make a single crochet decrease. I'm going to insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. That gives me 2. Insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. That gives me 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to yarn over and draw through all 3 loops on the hook, taking these 2 stitches and turning it into 1. So I'm going to continue around, single crochet in each of the next 4, and then a decrease. Then for rounds 13 and 14, we're going to do something similar. We're going to single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches and then do a decrease for round 13. And then round 14 is single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches and make a decrease. And so let me put those rounds on here and we'll come back and take a look. Now you can see that the head is starting to curve in towards the neck. And the instructions tell us to stop what we're doing here, which is at the end of round 14, and start stuffing the head, continuing to stuff as we go. The reason it's telling us that is as we keep going and that neck gets more narrow, it's hard to get the stuffing in there. And you'll notice the stuffing package looks awfully tiny when you pull it out of your kit, but once it has some air, it poofs up a little bit. So I'm going to start pulling some stuffing out of my package. And I like to just loosen it up a little bit, let it get a little bit of air. And I'm going to just a little bit start stuffing the very top of my head while I can still get 2 fingers in there. Then we're going to stitch a little and we'll stuff a little, and we'll stitch a little and we'll stuff a little. But again, if you start now, it's a little easier to do while the opening is larger. So let me put maybe just a little bit more in there. So now I'm going to keep stitching, moving on to round 15, which has 1 plain single crochet and then a decrease all the way around. And then round 16, which is single crochet in each of the next 2 and then decrease. And at the end of round 16, we're not going to fasten off. We're going to make sure that our little bunny head is nice and stuffed, and we're going to move on to the body, and that's great because that means that's something later that we don't have to sew together. All right, here I am at the end of round 16, and you can see I keep putting some stuffing in there because once that body's done, it's going to be really hard to get up into the head. So I'm just going to add a little bit more stuffing. I want him to be nice and firm and not too floppy. And as I mentioned, as the stuffing hits the air, it expands. So even though it doesn't look in the kit like a whole lot, you have plenty. So don't worry that you're going to run out. So now my head is all finished, and I'm going to move on with the body. And the reason I brought my finished front out here is I think it's easier to see on here. So to finish the body, we're going to keep going. So this is where we are. We just got to the most narrow part of the neck. Now we're going to have some increase rounds like we did at the top of the head. We're going to have some even rounds like we did in the middle of the head. We're going to have some decrease rounds like we did at the bottom of the head going into the neck. So there's nothing in the rest of this piece that you haven't seen before. When you get nearer to the bottom, you're going to start stuffing the body in the same way that you stuff the head. You're going to do it while you can still get your fingers in there easily to get all your stuffing done. And then you're going to finish off the bottom, and I'll come back and show you that. And then we'll move on to the other little body parts. All right, we're on the last round of the body. So here is our last single crochet decrease. And you can see I stuffed it good and full of stuffing. And I can take my stitch marker out now because I don't need it anymore. So here is my last single crochet 2 together. So now we're going to leave a decent sized tail, maybe 8 inches or so, because I'm going to need that to close up to the bottom. And I'm just going to pull, 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 pull. And that's going to end off my last stitch. So I had this little bitty hole here in the bottom, and I've made sure it's good and full of stuffing. So I'm going to take my yarn needle from my kit, and I want to close up this hole. So I like to go in and out, and I'm trying to keep that stuffing out of the way because I don't want it to poke out to the right side. Down, and then up, and then down, and then up. I think that's all of them. Yep, so I'm going to pull it super tight. See how that's all closed up now? So I'm just going to go ahead and weave in that tail like I would normally. That's more of an art than a science. But I'm just going in and out of the stitches in 2 directions to make sure that tail doesn't pull out, because I don't want anything to come apart. And then when I get to the end of that, this is just a thing that I do. I like to push it down through the work and let it come out somewhere else, because now there's a long tail down there. It's going to have to work really hard to pull out, and we don't want it to pull out. So I'm going to give that a little tug, trim it close, and then that raw end, it's going to pop inside the body. It's going to be inside of there, hanging out in the stuffing. So here we have our head and our body all finished. We're going to make 2 ears, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a cute little tail. and they're all made the same way, just with a slightly different stitch count. So I'm going to start an ear on camera so you can get a little reminder of how we begin. But after that, you're just going to follow along with the pattern, and each one of these pieces will be different. The only difference is, other than the stitch count, you want to have a little bit of stuffing in the arms and a little bit of stuffing in the legs. And again, there's plenty left. Holy cow, that stuffing expands and you're not going to wrung out. But we don't stuff the ears. We want them to be able to be concave. But because this cotton yarn is being worked at such a nice tight gauge, which is what we do for most amigurumi, they'll stand up on their own. We don't have to worry about it. So let's take a look at this ear. One more time, we're going to begin with a magic ring. I'm going to leave a 4 to 6 inch tail. I'm going to go over my index finger, under my middle finger, over my index finger. There is my X. I'm going to put my hook inside the X. I'm going to grab that yarn, and I'm all ready to go. So once again, make sure you're working with your working yarn, which is the yarn that's attached to the ball or the skein, and not the tail yarn, which is the cut end that's hanging off in the air. We're going to chain one just to get everything even and settled and sturdy enough to go where we're going. And this time we're going to put 5 single crochet in the ring. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my 5. And now I'm going to pull the tail out. I'm going to untwist it from this little ring I have going on here. And I'm going to give it a tug. I'm going to hold on to my stitches, but I'm holding pretty loosely because I need that tail to have some play. Pull, 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 pull. And now, here we go. Now we have our round. There's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. And we're going to put our marker in that last stitch like we did before. Okay. For round 2, increase in each stitch around. So remember that increase is we're putting 2 in one stitch. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes I have a hard time finding the very first stitch, and so you might notice what I just did there is I counted backwards from the stitch marker. I don't know why that works in my brain, but it might work in your brain too. Sometimes it's just easier to see that way, and that first one, because we pulled our ring so tight, the first one can sort of recede a little bit and it's hard to find. So there's our 2, and we're going to do that all the way around, just like we did before. Alright, here was my last stitch of round 1. I'm going to put 2 in there, 1, 2, and move my marker to that last stitch. So now I have my 10 stitches. Now we're just going to keep going. Round 3, single crochet in the next stitch, 2 in the next, single in the next, 2 in the next. We're going to do that all the way around. And then for rounds 4 and 5, we're going to work even. So that's no increases and no decreases. And then starting around 6, we'll have some decreases like we did when we were headed to the neck or to the bottom of the body. So we're going to go ahead and follow along with the pattern. And again, once you've got a couple rounds on here, I like to go weave in this tail now. You just want to make sure that it doesn't pull out when you don't want that circle to come undone. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my ear. I'm going to weave that end in, and then we're going to talk about assembly. The next thing I want to do is put my eyes on, and it tells me to use color A, and in this kit the color A is the only color we have. We're doing all our embroidery in black, and it says embroider the eyes between rounds 9 and 10 and put 6 stitches between them and 5 or 6 stitches in each one. So if you're looking around this, it doesn't matter where you pick. So we're going to count down 9. 1, that's the end of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so I'm going to just leave my finger right there so I can see. Now I can't just tie a knot here on this embroidery floss and hope that it stays. So what I like to do is bring it in from the back and leave a nice long tail inside. Now if this was just one little delicate embroidery stitch, I might be concerned about that pulling out, but since I'm going to put 5 or 6 stitches in the same spot, I'm not going to worry about it. And you can see it angles out ever so slightly. So there's one, and so I'm going to pull this so that it's snug, but I'm not going to pull super tight, because if I do, I'm afraid it might pull out. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you notice now, if I pull on that super tight, it's not going anywhere, so I'm not worried about the fact that it doesn't have a knot. So now it says, let's see, it said leave 5 or 6 stitches in between, so let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So once again, I'm going to slide my needle under here because I don't want to see it. I don't want to see that black embroidery floss floating. And then once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my little eyes. Now it says do the eyebrows between rounds 7 and 8. So if this was 9 and 10, 7 and 8 is going to be up here, and I'm going to take a close look at my picture, or in my case I have my little sample right here, and I've put the eyebrows right over the eyes. So I'm going to again use that use the inside to make my yarn travel. I don't want to have to start and stop it a bunch of times. And this is more of an art than a science. I have to say I was originally headed here, but that looks a little off to me. So I think I'm going to sort of do a back stitch and come over this way. And then bring the yarn up, the needle up, let's call it here. I can always move it if I have to. So there's one little eyebrow. Again, that looks a little too far towards the center to me, so I'm just going to let that travel on the inside. Here's my second eyebrow. And then the last thing I have to do is the nose. So let's see where it tells us that that little nose is going to be. In between the eyes between rounds 10 and 11. So that's going to be here. And I'm going to do it just the way they did in the photograph. I'm going to bring my yarn down. See, that finishes off my little eyebrow. Let's see, how many stitches did they go over? It looks like 2. That works for me. So I'm going to put 1 stitch here. I'm going to put another one to make that nice and thick. And then we want just a little tiny one go in here. So I'm going to go back over here and go, let's go there. That's between the 2 stitches. So I covered over 2 stitches here. And then I'm just going to go down 1. And then I'm going to push that all the way to the back, again, to give that lots of space so it doesn't pull out. Now this time, because I want to make sure this stays tight, I don't want to see it, but you can see I'm putting my needle through some of the stitches, keeping it to the wrong side of the work. I'm doing it sort of by feel here, and you want to go through where some of the stitches are tight, just to hold that embroidery floss tight so it doesn't pull out. I'm gonna pull my tail, get rid of my needle, give that a little tug, and cut the yarn. All right, and then it's awfully cute if I do say so myself. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is sew on our appendages. We have 2 ears, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a tail. And I'm just going to do the ear real quick. So again, I want him, we were talking earlier about how the ear doesn't have any stuffing, but you can see how sturdy that ear is. It doesn't have any stuffing because it's that nice tight gauge on this cotton yarn. It's not going anywhere. So I'm just going to hold it right here and see, I think that's a little too far back. I'm kind of lining mine up with the center. And I'm using the tail from when I stitched the ear because I don't want any more ends than I have to have, right? So I'm just grabbing some of the stitching and I'm going through the stitches and giving it a little tug. Getting that first one in is a little fiddly, but we're going to get it. Here we go. So now since this is where I want it to be, and I'm gonna fold that ear in a little bit to give it some more depth. So I'm gonna just scoop up a stitch down here and scoop up some stitches, the tops of the stitches of my last round. Scoop up a little stitch here. Scoop up a stitch from my last round. So I want to make sure it's standing up straight, and I'm going to really tug the heck out of this. I want this to be good and sturdy. I think we want to go one more over here. Let's see. Because again, I don't want my bunny to have floppy ears. And you don't have to worry about this being perfect because it's all the same color. It's really hard to see. I'll scoop under one more time. Okay, see, that looks good to me. It's standing up straight. It's pretty sturdy. If you're concerned it's not sturdy enough, you can put in a few more stitches, but I'm just going to weave in my end back here. I'm just going to go through those singles this direction. I go through my singles in this direction, or I could go through the piece like we did with the embroidery floss. And then give that a really tight tug and trim off my little threads. Oh, I got a couple over here too. Let me get rid of those. All right, so then all you have to do, sew your other ear, sew your 2 arms right about here, and sew your 2 legs. And it does tell you what round, if you want to count down. So for example, it says position the arms on either side of the body between rounds 18 and 20. So you can count down here and see where those rounds are. But honestly, you can also just do it by eye. You can take a look at the photo or a closer look at this video and see what looks great to you. And then his little tiny tail on the back. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. Once again, I'm Mary Beth Temple from Hooked for Life Publishing here on behalf of Yarnspirations. And check out all of the other kits that we have. We have a bunch, not just this adorable bunny. And we'll see you again here real soon. Bye-bye.